We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. It is week 16. It is the holidays, so we're always going to get these really nice slates on a Saturday. So we're going to go through, I guess, a double segment with Ryan Hodge today. We're going to go through the Saturday slate first. We're going to pick our favorite stack, and then we're going to give you guys, we're going to build a lineup together. Obviously, there's some people in the chat right now that are going to have some say in this as well. But again, Ryan Hodge with us. He's at Ryan Hodge on Twitter. He's been with us the last couple weeks for this stack/lineup builder segment. Hodge, how are you, my man? It sounds like you were a little bit down in the dumps out of, I guess, one decision you made. You're just like beating yourself up over like the smallest thing, but I'm gonna let you tilt a little bit here and get it out of your system so we can never talk about it again.
I didn't know if you were going to bring it up or not. I'm good, man. Thank you for asking. I am ready for week 16. Look, we're approaching short slate season, the best slate season, right? I mean, I know you're a big fan of Turkey Day slates. I love Thanksgiving Day slates, and these don't attract as much soft action. But once we get into the playoffs, dude, it's just like people are done with their season-long teams. They're firing $100 into these spies and $20 into whatever, and it's just like these are the best slates. So like look, yeah, I'm beating myself up over a decision just because I think it was a poor choice regardless of the outcome. Maybe you can talk me off that cliff, but it was a six-figure decision. It was just a couple back and just swung the wrong way. And so look, you go all year long hoping this is what we're playing for. We want as many, as Peter Overzet says, as many shots on goal, and we get those. And so, when we win $2,000, we win $5,000. It's like, cool, we're on to the next slate. Yeah. We want six figures, and I was there. So yeah, I beat myself up a little bit.
We're not going to bring it up because this is a forward-thinking show. I'm not going to bring up the exact lineup, but essentially, you were, I guess, sweating a cheaper wide receiver that would add a little bit of correlation to your Hurt stack, right? And then you decided to go elsewhere. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I basically went with Miles Sanders as part of my Hurt stack to net all of the touchdowns in a smaller field, higher entry. Wanted to net everything. I loved every bit of that game, and Sanders just didn't do enough for me.
Just didn't get there, man. That's trust me. I think anyone that's watching this video, they've probably been in that exact spot, man. So let's talk through this Saturday slate first. Obviously, 3 games. I think the order is very important as well. So the first game we have Tampa Bay and Detroit. Second game we have San Francisco and Arizona. Third game we have Miami and Vegas. So this is an interesting one overall. Your stack is coming from the second game here, Hodge. It sounds like you're really heavy on Arizona and San Francisco. This is a game that I think is kind of hard to pair guys with overall. So I'm interested to see what you think about this one.
Yeah, it was definitely tough to try and figure out the proper correlation for this specific Saturday game slate with these two teams specifically, right? So if you take a look at the Arizona side of this football, I think Kyler is easy to Hopkins is easy, and you run it back with Brandon Ayuk, right? Like it's just that to me is super straightforward, really easy, skinny stack. I think you're netting most of that team's productions, market share of X, Y, and Z. But what gets tough is when you start to think about maybe running it back with Kendrick Bourne or Christian Kirk, and then like Jeff Wilson looks like he's in a really good spot, and so you start to maybe want to talk yourself into playing CJ Beathard, and then you go back and you look at CJ Beathard's splits and what he's doing from like 2017 and 2018, and if he has the attempts, if the volume is there, he's done fine. He's had the 22 to 28 point DK games. He has the 3 to 6 rush attempt within his range of outcomes. But for me, for this stack specifically, like I just went straight to Kyler and I didn't screw around.
Yeah, love the Kyler spot overall. We were just talking about this with Reeves, and just like Kyler Murray, believe it or not, his splits while under pressure and while not under pressure are very drastic. So I'll let people watch that video where Reeves and I broke down kind of game by game for this slate if they want a little bit more info on that. But San Francisco is a team that doesn't pressure at all on defense right now. So I think if we're just looking at just that, but like that, the skinny stack makes a ton of sense. Like we forget there might be George Kittle in this game as well. Someone that in a small sample, at least, Brandon Ayuk has not correlated correlated very well with in the past, but he's been so good since Kittle's been hurt. I would imagine he has kind of established himself in a different role overall with this one. So I'm with you on this entire stack. I think it makes a ton of sense overall. So if we wanted to kind of piece together the rest of this, obviously it's a 3-game slate. So the beginning, I guess this first game, this Tampa Bay Detroit game, much higher total than the other ones. So is there anyone else that you feel like is a must play from this first Tampa Bay and Detroit game? There's a couple of guys that don't really feel super comfortable, but I mean, Marvin Jones seems like he's drastically underpriced. Do you have any interest in the running backs in this Tampa Bay Detroit game? I guess let's start with that game. Is there anything that you think is a must play in game one?
Well, I think the must play determines your contest selection.
Sure. Let's say this is a small field team. So that's because we're more talking about that stuff usually anyway.
So I'll probably be more willing to eat a little bit of the chalk in a 2,500 or 5,000 person field.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're actually avoiding some of it by not using Tom Brady and Swift and this actual game itself. It's the highest total by 5 points, I think. So I think just going to the San Francisco and Arizona game gives us, enough differentiation in overall ownership, or the overall ownership for our lineup. So I actually think using Gronkowski instead of Hawkinson in this spot, I think is totally fine. I think like Gronkowski is probably the highest owned tight end on this slate, though, and it's not even that close for me.
That price tag, man, 3,600, like coming off a really tough spot last week. Like he hasn't been getting crazy volume, but he's so involved in the red zone, and like he's been getting air yards as well. Like he's getting targeted down the field like the old Gronkowski at times. So I love that one. I think if we're going to go with the Kyler stack, it's still probably fine to do a little bit of a mini stack in game one. So let's see what happens if we put Marvin Jones in here. I think that the Mike Evans fade, Tom Brady fade makes us relatively unique anyway. So as a whole, this 3-game slate at the running back position, not super strong. So the Miami stuff, obviously, if Ahmed is still going to be involved with Gaskin in there, that's a question mark. We do have Leonard Fournette, it looks like. So is there a guy that feels like a must play at running back for you? We do have we're kind of in a pinch with salary right now, so we might have to go a little bit cheaper.
What is our total remaining?
So we got 47.50 average. So let's toss a defense in there first. So we got Kyler, so we're probably not going Cardinals on this team. If we wanted to go super cheap, we could just play the Lions defense Detroit. At 2K, which I'm not opposed to in a 3-game slate. But what are your thoughts at the cheaper end of defense for a placeholder?
It's 100% Detroit. It's massive leverage. So
okay. Perfect.
It frees up a ton for us. So have you seen anything with Rojo coming back for this game at all? If he tests consecutive negative COVID tests, he should be back by Saturday, right? Just based off some of the previous trends. I haven't seen anything, but
let's see if anything came out today. I did a little bit of Christmas shopping today, so I feel like I haven't seen the latest one on this one. So it looks like he's expected to miss week 16. So Reeves brought that up before. Okay. Jones on the COVID list. Arians confirms basically that he's expected not to be in the lineup. So Lenny Fournette season again, man. Guy just buried me last week.
Yeah, I kind of want to fade him again, though. I think people definitely luck box. There was a little bit of a suck out on him falling into the end zone twice. The thing is, I definitely need to check myself on that, though, right? Because that's the expected usage and the expected role. And so when we look at what we want in a running back, it's high implied team total, goal line usage. Typically, we want pass down work. I just don't know if that's really in play for him. But those first two are massive. I will compare him to Adrian Peterson on the Thanksgiving Day slate. He puts up 18 because he falls in twice. The only difference here is Adrian Peterson was 8% owned, and he's going to, be 45% owned.
Right.
So it really just depends on what you want to do from an ownership standpoint. The running backs are tough. Swift isn't a tough matchup, right? And Leonard Fournette, I think Detroit's like 32nd in rush DVOA. Like, I don't think the matchup gets any sweeter for him.
Yeah.
So if he's going to get the volume, I think you just get over it and play it, right? Like,
if it wasn't a 3-game slate, I would give you more pushback here, because I think that like Rob Gronkowski and Leonard Fournette together, you would think that they would negatively correlate in terms of touchdowns. So there's that. So let's do this to start. Let's put in Gaskin first because he's basically the same price. I would prefer to take a shot on one of these Miami guys. We'll see if it ends up being kind of what they've been doing all year, where it's one guy. So Ahmed could ruin this for us, but it's basically the same price as Fournette. So let's do that first. Now we got 58.50 left at a running back and a flex spot. So let's leave the Fournette decision for the end. Let's see how this the rest of this team goes. Is there anyone else that you're on that feels like a must play in this slate? It's kind of gross in general, I think.
We just have Ahmed, right? Or who did you put in?
I just put in Gaskin for now.
One.
Okay. Yeah.
I actually think Jeff Wilson is in a good spot here. He only played 40% of like 80 snaps last week, and on those snaps he had 16 rush attempts. And Mostert is obviously not playing. So I think Jeff Wilson is part of just keeping in that Arizona game. I want plays, and when you look at a stack, we have San Francisco is 5th in seconds per play when trailing, and Arizona is 1st in situation neutral. So if this plays out, like, I think Jeff Wilson is actually fine to run back as part of our Arizona stack too.
Yeah, I think that one's interesting. Just like being overexposed to that game, I think is totally fine because I think a lot of people are going to be super heavy on this Tampa Bay Detroit game. Gets us away from Leonard Fournette and Gronk together. 6,700 left if we do want to stay with the Lions defense. So we could go Josh Jacobs, we can go DeAndre Swift, we can go Mike Evans. So it's basically pick your poison with one of those guys. You have a favorite out of that trio?
Because it's tournament, I would typically leave towards like a higher upside wide receiver, but I also think Josh Jacobs versus Miami, who ranks, I think, 24th or something like that in rush DVOA, is probably the play there, especially with his pass catching role.
Yeah, so those guys together, again, you got to get over some of the correlation stuff on these type of slates. So
it doesn't matter.
I'm with you. So I'm with you. Let's go Josh Jacobs in this one, and it gives us a little bit more flexibility than going like Evans, because then basically like a good chunk of this team. I mean, a lot more after game number 1. So some pretty big fades here, but I like it in general, man. I think this is going to be a solid one overall. So as we kind of wrap up this short little top stack video for the Saturday slate, I want everyone to toss a like on this video, consider subscribing if they haven't done that, but also let me know in the comments your favorite stack for the week 16 Saturday slate. Obviously follow Ryan Hodge on Twitter. He's at Ryan Hodge, and we'll see you guys on the next one.